I am appealing to those with authority to grant Raila Amolo Odinga the honor of CGS. To me, he deserves it. But in Kenya, we have very funny people. We have some people who would agree with me or disagree with me depending on their current political trends. But the question comes, does Raila deserve a CGS, or who is the person who deserves a CGH? I've done my own thinking. I've tried to look back to see who are the people who get it. I'm also trying to understand who are the people who deserve to get us a medal, especially CGH. Various bodies and organizations do offer medals. The Kenya government offers various medals. The highest honor and medal in Kenya is the Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya. And just like other medals, especially in Kenya, it has 3 levels. We borrowed this from Great Britain. Great Britain, all the medals that they have 3 levels. The lowest order in Britain is called member. So in Kenya, when we started our own medals, we replaced the name member with Moran to stand for M. For example, in Britain, they have a member of the British Empire, MBE. And in Kenya, we have a Moran of the Golden Heart of Kenya, MGH. Can I also give another example? We have the Burning Spear, which was started by Jomo Kenyatta. In Burning Spear, we have Moran of the Burning Spear. The second level in Britain is called officer. It is called officer. But in Kenya, instead of looking for a word that had the name officer, we could not find an appropriate name that started with an O. So we changed it into elder. We changed, in Britain, you start with a member of the British Empire, for example. Then you go to the odd officer of the British Empire. But in Kenya, we start with member. In Kenya, we start with Moran of the Burning Spear, or Moran of the Golden Heart. That is an M. Then we go to the second class, which we call it elder. Elder of the Golden Heart of Kenya. We can even call it EBS, Elder of the Burning Spear. So in Kenya, the second grade is called Elder, to stand for EGH, EBS, and so on and so on. In Britain, the highest medal is called Commander. For example, and we are using mostly British Empire, the highest you find that it is called Commander of the British Empire, CBE. But in Kenya, you place it at CGH. So instead of commander, we placed it as chief. In Britain, we start with, The highest is commander, which we place it as chief. In Britain, the second one is officer, where we say elder. And the smallest in Britain, they say member, of which we call Moran. But then, just like Britain has so many orders, so many medallions. Kenya also has so many medallions. But today we are concentrating on Golden Heart of Kenya, because I feel that Raila Amolo Odinga should be awarded the chief of the Golden Heart of Kenya, which is the most prestigious. So I said the Order of the Golden Heart is the most prestigious. For decades, I've had debating among people where we are unable to distinguish which is better, which is grandeur, which is glamorous. Is it the Order of the Grand Warrior or the Head of State commendation? Which is more prestigious? Of course, fighting Gorokos, shifters, Al-Shabaab, etc. gives one the automatic Order of the Grand Warrior. And even the Northeastern Campaign Medal, one is supposed to, that one comes below the two. But surprising thing is that I've not been considered for any of the three. But what I was saying is that the highest is the Order of the Grand Warrior. No, the highest is the Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya. The second, it depends on whom you are talking to. Some feel Head of State commendation. The other one is Grand Warrior. But what I would say, that we are so many Grand Warriors, including me, although I've not been given that medal. But there is something special about Head of State commendation. It means that you have come to the attention of the Head of State, which is more rarer than Northeastern Campaign Medal and even the Order of the Grand Warrior. That is my opinion. People in the disciplined forces prefer medals to ranks. Yeah, when I was an inspector, we used to have sergeants with their chest full of medals. We used to greet them with a lot of reverence. So, disciplined forces, they respect the medals more than the ranks. After all, one day you'll become a retired officer. For example, you'll be called retired general and so on. But there is no time you'll be called retired OGW, Order of the Grand Warrior. So that is why medals are very important. You other ranks, you may also retire with your rank, but there's no time that the medals. Actually, even on your death, and if when you are dead, you get buried, or either you get buried by them, or they are placed somewhere strategic in your house. What I'm saying is that ranks are more prestigious, and they even last or outlast the medals are more prestigious than ranks and even outlast ranks. I hope people understand me that. Though practice and not definition, do we get people in various positions. E.g., the position of what I'm trying to say is that there are those definitions which are placed in. We have some definition which say, oh, for you to get this rank, you have to do this. For you to get this rank, you have to. For you to get this medal, yeah. For you to get this medal, you have to do this. For you to get this medal, you have to do this. But it is never practiced. In Kenya, especially Kenya, most of the medals are given with positions. For example, Moran of the Golden Heart of Kenya, which is the third level, is usually granted to people who are assistant ministers, permanent secretaries, or even principal secretaries, ambassadors, service commanders, etc. So when you meet somebody, you can meet somebody like Ababu Namwamba is now an ambassador. One time he was a cabinet minister. Another time he was the cabinet secretary. Another time he was the what they brought called CAS, which were more or less like assistant ministers. But he has an EGH. So someone is usually given the highest. If you are the highest you have ever reached is what I've said, assistant ministers, PS, ambassadors, service commanders, etc. You end up getting a Moran of the Golden Heart. It is through practice, but it is not written anywhere. There is a beautiful narration, but if you check those who get it, they fit the above definition, whereby someone is only given because he has reached there. On the medal of the second class now, which is EGH, most Kenyans who get EGH are Prime Minister. Now we have a PCM, Prime Cabinet Minister. We have Vice Presidents. We have Deputy Presidents. We have Cabinet Ministers, Cabinet Secretaries, etc. and etc. But recently, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta granted Mama Rachel Ruto the EGH. So from that day on, wives of PM, Prime Minister, Vice Presidents, Deputy Presidents, etc. are now entitled to EGH. This is what happens in democracies, especially courts of law and whatever. When something is happening, for example, they decide that somebody who has been to standard 6 will be getting this. Then anybody who has reached standard 6 will be given that. So with the act of giving the then second lady the medal of EGH, it became automatic that all second ladies and maybe in future second gentlemen will be getting EGH. To date, the Order of the Golden Heart, first class, which is known as Chief of the General Staff, no, correction, Chief of the Golden Heart, CGH, has only been granted to 5 Kenyans. I'll repeat that. To date, Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya, first class, also known as Chief of the Golden Heart of Kenya, has only been granted to 5 Kenyans. It was created in 1966, meaning in 1965 it was not there. It was created in 1966 and Jomo Kenyatta became its first awardee, Kenyan awardee. The second Kenya awardee to be honored by that one was Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi in 1978 after Jomo Kenyatta had died. Mwai Kibaki, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and William Samuel Ruto were handed over the instruments of power. I am not aware of seeing the outgoing president putting on the CGH on the incoming president. I've seen. I believe that after the sword has been given out, I believe that the CGH gold, CGH gold, should be the next. But I don't remember. I don't remember seeing. I don't remember seeing the living president, because Jomo Kenyatta, no, Daniel Arap Moi took over from a dead president. Now, Mwai Kibaki handed over to Uhuru. No, Moi handed over to, sorry for the confusion. Moi handed over to Kibaki, when Moi was alive. Kibaki handed over to Uhuru when Kibaki was alive. Uhuru handed over to Ruto, and Uhuru is still alive. I don't remember seeing him putting on the CGH chain on the new president. To me, it is supposed to be part of the, after, immediately after giving out the sword. For those of you who may not know how it looks like, the president puts on a chain, a golden chain, which looks like the mayor's chain. Jomo Kenyatta used to put it regularly. Moi used to like to put it. But Kibaki, if you can Google to see the picture of Kibaki during the word is a bit hard. The new constitution at Uhuru Park. And then Kibaki was waving the new constitution to people around. You can see he was putting on a golden chain. That golden chain is what is called CGH. Kibaki only put it only once. Whenever the president is visiting other countries, whenever the Kenyan president is visiting other countries, or other presidents come visiting to Kenya, they exchange each other's highest honor. So any president who has paid a state visit to Kenya, any, since 1966, they have been granted CGH, head of state or head of government. And when they come, the Kenyan president grants that president or prime minister CGH, and that visitor grants the president of Kenya a similar one of their country or where they are coming from. That is how CGS is. And when the president of Kenya is visiting another country, the same exchanges happens. The president carries on a few chains of CGH and gives it to the president or head of government of the place is visiting, and they also give him. So if today we have two presidents, we have Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, we have William Samoei Ruto. Let me just say Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta because Ruto likes traveling. If they were to start mentioning the equivalent of CGS that they have received, they'll spend an hour defining them. They'll also need a paper to remember them. So that is what I'm saying. Whenever our president goes elsewhere, he grants that country's president CGH, and the country president also grants our president an equivalent. And the same happens if a visiting president comes to State House, Nairobi. This happens around when there is the gun salute. The recently deceased Aga Khan IV was granted CGH. If you Google, you'll find a picture of him having the CGH. Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Al Saud, the Minister for Foreign Affairs for Saudi Arabia, has a CGH. Mike Moore, former Prime Minister of Sydney, he has it. Siedan Mafdal Safdin, majina ngumu. The 53rd Dai Mutlag. Those are the foreign people I'm saying, who are not heads of state, and they are not even heads of, you have found even some are ministers for foreign affairs, but they were granted that. It is along that venue that I say, since they are not heads of state and they have been given CGH, and Raila has never been head of state, but should be given that. There is nowhere it is written. There is nowhere it is written that for you to be a Kenyan, you have to be a head of state. No. In other countries, people who have played a big role and are not necessarily present or current heads of state or government are given the highest honor. But in Kenya, the fact that it's only the commanders in chief who have done so, it is, to me, it is more of a coincidence, but not a rule. Yes, the government has to guard the integrity and a floodgate of claimants. For example, where do we stop? If we grant Raila CGH, there's other people will now come, and especially, giving somebody posthumous hakuna shida. Can give kina Kimathi, kina whatever of this world, but leaving people, very many will demand, and maybe one of the reasons why they delay in, I mean, they are reluctant in giving Kenyans maybe the flood of that. But we must agree that Raila deserves this medal, CGH. Finally, as I finish, there is something. We in the intelligence, we get reports. When we get reports, I remember somebody. He was called Elijah Oda. One time he told me every report coming to the intelligence must be graded. Must be graded. Don't ever uh, turn down a report failing to write it. And intelligence reports, the highest is referred to as the most reliable, most reliable. But the lowest is the most unreliable, which has been kept for record purposes only. So we are receiving reports from Addis Ababa, which it is more nearer the low than the high. But as I was told by Elijah Oda, Superintendent Elijah Oda, that as you don't downplay a report, maybe in future it will be verified. It is said that two things have been said, which I wanted to finish off by referring to them. And if both are true, or if one of them is true, then it is more reason why Raila should get a CGH. On the first one, the constitution says that these people are to repeat and repeat until one candidate gets 2/3. But after the counting was reached a certain stage, Raila realized that the they'll continue counting and they'll not reach the 2/3, and it will be postponed, maybe 6 months or even 1 year. But because he did not want the African Union Council chair to be vacant for 6 months or even 1 year, he decided that Africa was bigger than him. So he decided to step down. If that story is true, then it verifies something that I've always been doubting about Raila. Because it is even said that on many occasions he has accepted election results which he believed to have won, but he had been seeing that the country will burn down. So he has preferred he alone getting burned than the country getting burned. If that allegation is true, then another point why Raila should get a CGH. Another thing which is an unverifiable report is that Uhuru has been very busy, either physically or sending people in Addis Ababa. His intention was, and actually, Even from the word go, the most suitable person to have taken I'm calling it SG, but it is not SG. It used to be called SG of OAU, but it now called chairman of the African Union Council. The most suitable person was Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete. But from the word go, Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete was not happy about that position. He was not interested. Maybe he wants to rest, or maybe he's waiting for UN. Never know. But the most qualified person is and was Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete. The second most qualified person was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Now, this second other allegation is coming that Uhuru was killing two birds with the same stone. One, Uhuru, I don't know. Maybe Ruto is that evil because Uhuru knows Ruto more than what I'll know Ruto in a million years. But you see, Uhuru, some religious people, when they talked to Uhuru and is the then deputy to try and reconcile them, Uhuru told them that even Jesus and his angels, if they were to come, he will never reconcile with Ruto. Although, of course, there was that meeting juicy, lakini that is what is happening. So, and you see, he was also telling kina jinsia ati oh, sijui msikae hivyo watu wa kuogopa ni sisi. So you see, he sends mixed messages. It is you cannot rule out the possibility that it is true that he may have dreamed of there lacking somebody to take over, so that East Africa is asked for the second time to produce somebody. And who was to be that person? Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I said that in the NIS, you never underrate any report. You just grade it, say that it is down here towards the lower page, so that with the time, maybe other reports will come and uplift it and take it to a higher level. But if it is true, then we are seeing Raila who puts the interest of others ahead of him. What I would request him is once you get the CGH, don't even support Ruto. Don't do anything. Just go home and relax. The 20 years that you are remaining, just have a nice time with the friends and whatever, and be next to a fireplace. I think that one would be better. You have done your part. You have played your part. That was how the Lord had created things for you. It is something that you have done the best to the best of your knowledge. We may criticize you, but going 3 to 4 villages from here, nobody knows us. And then we are there passing judgment against you when people around us do not even know us. Failing to do something is failing, but doing something and getting results that you didn't like, that is not failing. Thank you.